Hello, friends. Welcome back to Hello, Friends. Welcome to episode 36 of the Mr. Robot Review Show. My name is Kyle, your host, guys. Welcome to Project Potter. If you haven't seen the show before, guys, it is a recap of every episode of Mr. Robot, season 4, episode 5. And guys, every time I think they put the bar here, they put the bar here, and they raise it here, and they keep raising it. It just keeps going up, man, and I cannot believe it. And without further ado, guys, there's a lot going on, so there's a lot to get to. And so we're just going to jump right into it, guys. But thanks for checking out the channel. And here we go. Okay, guys, so if you remember last time, unfortunately, it was Tyrell Wellick's final episode. There was a lot of stumbling through the woods with Elliot, Mr. Robot, and Tyrell. Basically, Tyrell discovering or realizing that he did care way too much, which is why he failed. And Elliot succeeds because he does not care. So with that being said, Tyrell unfortunately gets an untimely demise at the end, and we see him going to die into like a blue hymn. But he says, like, destroy the van and burn the evidence. And so that's immediately where we pick up. The opening shot is actually Tyrell's phone, which must have been dropped in the snow, because it's a really heartbreaking photo of Joanna Wellick as his home screen and their baby, and she's smiling. And whether Tyrell left this here intentionally or not, I don't know, but probably not. But, Elliot does pocket the phone. They take the gun, they douse gasoline all over the van and the dead Dark Army driver. Now, this was where I was like, where did they get gasoline? Because I'm assuming maybe it was in the van already, but I'm assuming that they didn't leave to go get a tank of gasoline and come back. So nonetheless, though, they burn the van. It's a cool aesthetic there, and it goes up in flames. We cut in on Darlene, who's driving, and she's heading back, remember, from her time with Tobias. She's got the coordinates from Elliot, who ends up sending her, I don't know how he got service, but ends up sending her the coordinates. She goes to the stop and save or whatever. She sees smoke billowing in the distance, and she's like, oh, okay, that's where I need to go. So she goes over, she pulls up to the van, it's burning on fire, and she's like, holy shit, the music's playing. And then Elliot knocks on the passenger side window. And then this is the best line, I think, of the show, or at least of this episode. Elliot's kind of exhausted, and he gets in, and Darlene looks at the smoke, and then she says, it's cool, dude, we don't need to talk about it. And that is a big line, because we'll get to that at the end here. But basically, there's Christmas music playing. It's Ode to Joy. And then it frames up to the traffic light there. We get the Mr. Robot title card. This episode's cool because it takes place on Christmas Day 2015. And there's Christmas music playing the whole time. It's for some of the events that happen in here, it's weirdly upbeat because, Christmas music is playing the whole time. And it's this really loving time, even though there's some really dark things that happen in this episode. So that was cool. This episode almost felt a little bit lighter, oddly enough. So that was fun. But we do check in on Krista, who's got her goofy boyfriend. First of all, he's texting her. He says, Happy Christmas. Bro, red flag right there. Okay. Anyone who says Happy Christmas, bro, it's Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. This dude has combined them. But in all seriousness, he sends her a couple pictures, and he's like, which sweater should I wear? This one? And there's a swipe right one. Or this one. And it's him with it's a Santa, those tuxedo shirts, except this is a Santa outfit. And she's laughing at him. And she says, definitely the second one. My mom will love it. My family's so excited to finally meet you. And this is zooming in on the phone. And he's like, oh, I can't wait. I'm not nervous at all. And then he's got a surprised emoji and a gun. So I'm like, all right, this guy's okay. And she says, haha, they're going to love you. And I was like, oh, that's so nice, Krista. Poor Krista's been through some hell. And she's finally getting together. The lighting is beautiful here. There's a ray of sunshine coming into the table, and it seems like things are looking up. But then Krista has a moment to reflect, and then she sends him a text, and she says, how about we blow off my family and make it Christmas, a Christmas for two tonight? And I'm like, that's kind of a dick move, Krista. Why would you do that? And he's like, oh, that sounds great. Or he sends a bunch of heart emojis or whatever. And I'm like, you were going to introduce him to your family, so your family is obviously expecting you. And then she's just like, how about we just blow them off? Bro, don't blow off your family. Family is everything. So I was like, all right, that's a weird move by Krista. But anyway, so we cut to Elliot, and he's in his apartment. And it's kind of a weird moment because Elliot is like washing his hands, but he's like leaning over all weird. And then he like goes down to the floor for a second and he's having like sort of like a breakdown. And then at the last second, he kind of like gets up right before Darlene comes out. And Darlene, who is going to be going undercover to break into virtual realty as Dolores Hayes. Let me say, guys, Carly is gorgeous always, but we always see her as like kind of like the emo chick. Darlene is looking like a fox in this episode. She's looking good. So she's got like a black wig. Carly is beautiful, so no disrespect to her normal character as Darlene, but this is like the most like clean up kept. I don't even know. I don't think that's the right word, but we don't usually see Darlene as like this character who's like buttoned up and like businesswoman attire. We usually see Darlene just like saying like, "What the fuck, dude," and like calling people assholes and stuff. So interesting change of a character for her in this one. But basically they have this cool like alpha card printer that's like printing out like ID cards. So that's cool. We do see some more technology later that was kind of popular back in 2015 and still popular and still growing these days. So we check in on Dom and she gets a text from Janice that says Merry Christmas or Merry and then the Christmas tree. And then Dom's like, "Yo, we can't talk." I'm like, "Oh, dude, you should know not to talk back to Janice right now." But Janice texts her back and she says, "Mom's going to have to wait. One of our vans was found burnt up in Pikes Hollow with a body inside. Need you to head there ASAP. Use your FBI credentials to intercept all intel and ID that body. Thanks." And it's like, oh, so poor Dom is just trying to have a nice Christmas. And she knows that, she works for Dark Army now, so they come first and they're always getting in the way. And yeah. We cut to Philip Price, and again, Christmas music is playing like the whole time, so it's really like a nice vibe throughout the episode. Elliot texts Philip Price, and he says Tyrell's not coming to the meeting tonight. And he doesn't say that Tyrell died. He just says, Tyrell's not coming. And Philip Price is like kind of annoyed. But this is almost like a softer side of Philip Price. He sees like a family laughing he's like at a restaurant, and it's pretty much deserted. It's Christmas Day. And there's like a family laughing, and he kind of like, all right. He like gets over it, but he gets a receipt from the waiter, and the receipt just says outside of E Corp, give $20 to the trombone player. And so obviously they have a guy on the inside, but this is Mr. Robot World, dude. Everything's happening. Like there's always a reason for everything. So Darlene cuts over as Dolores Hayes. Again, she's got like this nice coat on. She's got this dark haired wig. She looks a little nervous, but for the most part, she's got it together. So she goes over to the virtual realty building, and it's like a glass door. There's two security guys at the front there. It turns 11 o'clock on the dot, and then one of the guys goes to like take lunch or break or whatever. And so she heads in there. We cut outside to Elliot, who's in the car. They have like a very pre-planned plan that they're going to put into action here. The front desk guard is watching Die Hard, which is nice on Christmas. Great movie. One of the best Christmas movies ever. Don't tell me it's not a Christmas movie because I know it's a Christmas movie. So I'm not going to have that debate on this show. But Darlene goes in and she goes to swipe the card or the badge that she got, and it gets denied, of course. And it gets denied again. The guy doesn't she gets it swiped like 4 times, rejected, and the guy doesn't get out of his desk or ask if anything's okay, which is a little weird, but she's like, kind of waiting for him to get up or whatever. So she turns around eventually. Elliot actually gets out of the car and goes to like smoke a cigarette at the brick building like right next door. And then she like keeps swiping, and this dude's just like sipping his water bottle. He's clearly like, whatever's going on, man. So she goes over and she starts talking to him. There's a really great shot through the window because we see Elliot's reflection, and Darlene is like looking through the glass. She's talking to the guy and she's like, "Hey, can you just check my credential?" There's no dialogue, but we're assuming that she's saying like, "Hey, can you check my credentials? My badge isn't working," or whatever. And so she gives Elliot like a quick nod, and Elliot comes in. And so while he's not looking at the cameras, he jumps over the security cam or the little door that you scan your badge to go through. And, he runs down to the basement, and obviously they've like scanned the building or got the floor ready. He pulls out his computer right outside, like the one of the security rooms. He decrypts it, which unlocks the keypad, which is super cool. I didn't know you could do that. Obviously, they show it happening, but basically he gets into like the security cam like headquarters or like where you control the security cameras. There's no one in here, which I think is kind of weird. But I mean, Darlene did say like Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, like the security is lax. So we're assuming that most people are off, and they're not really expecting anyone to kind of like break in here on Christmas Day. So, which is why they're doing it on Christmas Day. But basically, Elliot goes in there and he hacks it and he gives her access, full access. He does it like right before the guy's checking the computer. He finds Dolores Hayes and he's like, oh yeah, you're all set. Again, there's no dialogue here. Very little dialogue throughout the whole episode, really, through a lot of characters. But Darlene scans and it goes through and she's kind of like walking slowly. She intentionally leaves her cell phone there. And so the guy picks it up and he like whistles at her, which I would have liked like for him to say like, excuse me, miss, you forgot your phone or anything. But like he didn't, he just like whistles at her, which is weird, like a cat call almost. And then like it zooms in and he's got like the back of his thumb is, or his thumb is on the back of her phone. And so she's like, oh, okay. So obviously intentionally made him touch it. So they have his fingerprint. And then she gets in the elevator and Elliot's still hacking the system here. He's trying to take out the cameras and he does a firmware update that's going to take 40 minutes, which wipes out the camera. And then he puts a timer on his phone for 40 minutes. And this is when they get to work, dude. And so cool. So, she puts on gloves in the elevator and the cameras all go out and the guy's like, okay. And he's like escape a bunch of times and he's like moving around. And so Darlene and Elliot like meet up here because she like goes to the basement, picks him up in the elevator or whatever. And then they go up to like one of the floors, the 7th floor or something. And they have brought like a hot plate and they brought a cup and then they brought, obviously she has like a little label for the fingerprint there. This part I didn't really understand. I'm sure there's something like to get it to stay or whatever that they did. But basically they plug in the hot plate, they heat up the fingerprint over the slide so that it stays on there or something, I'm assuming. And then they like scan it into the computer. And then this is really cool because they use a 3D printer, which are always awesome. 3D printers, I don't understand how they work, but I have seen like things made from them and I'm like, that's awesome. And so they're like looking to make like a human replicant thumb of his fingerprint. So they start 3D printing that there, and then the guy's trying to access the cameras downstairs, and it's like cannot like reboot or whatever while there's a firmware update running. And he's like, and the guy, he doesn't like try to call IT or anything, which is kind of weird, but whatever. Maybe he like knows that or whatever. I don't know. So we go to Philip Price and he shows up at the E-Court building. He finds a trombone player and he pays him $20 and they give him a dry cleaning receipt and he needs to go pick up some clothing at Murnau's Dry Cleaners, which is on 1743 2nd Avenue, New York. So he's going there. It's really cool because we kind of get a glimpse at how much time is passing because Elliot keeps checking his phone throughout the episode to see how much time is left. So we cut back to him. There's 19 minutes left. And so the music is playing. The music is phenomenal throughout the whole episode. So we see the 3D printer. It's like this little orange box there, which is just thumbprint. They get like something that like, it's like putty or clay or something that like they can mold onto the fingerprint that like must replicate like human skin or whatever. So they're literally just trying to make like a huge fingerprint that they can use. We cut to the coroner's office. Dom has showed up at the crime scene. Or the burning van, and it's like his face is all messed up. Janice says ID the body. I mean, unless Dark Army had something on him, like a license or anything, which I'm assuming they don't because they're super careful about that stuff. I don't know. Dom doesn't really do much. There's a local PD like officer that has like a All About That Bass ringtone by is it Megan Trainor? I think I don't remember, but. Dom's going there. She doesn't really do anything at the crime scene, but she does walk by as the local PD officers like putting her phone on silent. So Dom drives away. She gets to a red light, and then she does intentionally get like arrested or pulled over because there's a red light. She stops there, and there's no cars coming, and she just decides to run it. And it takes a picture of her car. She stops and she gets out, and she looks at the camera, which I think is weird. I don't really understand why that happened, but we cut back to Elliot and Darlene. It's cool. They both have gloves on. Again, the music is going. It's like classic Mr. Robot, dude, like intense music playing. And Elliot's just lockpicking all the doors. Like he's just really good at lockpicking, which is cool. So they go into another floor. I think this is the 9th floor now. They go into like an office, and there's another Alpha card pilot that actually prints out a card for them. Then we cut back to Dom, who's at the local PD office. She gets up and she like walks away. We're assuming she was been processed or whatever. I don't know why they would take her in for running red light. They not just give her a ticket or something. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe she regrouped with them to just go over the evidence or something. I don't know. She later says she doesn't have jurisdiction. So this part was a little strange for me, but basically the police officer's phone is like left in a birthday cake box or whatever, and all about that bass is playing. So she has to get up from her desk to get her phone. And then apparently while she did that, Dom like came back in and attached like a little like USB thing to the back of her computer. There's like 3 other officers in the office, and somehow none of them noticed this. And I was like, this was a stretch for me, where I was like, okay, so Dom left, right? And then so she like walks out the door. The officer goes to get her phone, and then Dom must have walked back in, so that someone must have been like watching her, being like, "What are you doing, Dom?" And then she plugs something into the computer, and nobody says anything. This was like the one nitpick where I was like, all right, this is, I don't know how that would have happened, because it's not like it's a big building. It's like a very small office, and someone would have been like, I mean, if they're watching Dom, I don't know. But beside the point, Dom is able to basically connect something that gives her remote access to the desktop there for like Jean Deskins or something. I don't know what her name is, but basically she texts Janice and she says, didn't have authorization, so I had to hack the local PD's network. You should have access now. And Janice is like, oh, great. She gives a thumbs up. And then she says, anything else? And she says, look out for any incoming red light camera reports. And she's like, oh, sweet. Just gives her another thumbs up. Dom looks over to like the candy or the cookies that she was going to bring to her mom's, and she gets kind of sad. And I'm like, Dom, I know you're still getting used to it, but man, you just got to do what Irving told you. He's like, you just got to get used to it, man. Just accept it, because it gets better. And like, you're not getting out of this situation. So you should you just got to understand that like you work for Dark Army now, and that's just how it is. Dom then gets like an email from the FBI where there's the release of Deacon McGuire, which was like the Irish guy or something that she was like interrogating last time. I don't know how this all connects, but there's a funny quick scene where Janice, like, remember she like stuffs dead animals or whatever. And so the dog that lady brought in a couple episodes ago, there's like a quick funny bit where she just stabs the dog, and it's like the sound it makes is satisfying. So that was pretty good. Krista is like shopping at the local mart there. She runs into like a kid with a red poofy jacket, which we'll get to at the end again there. So that's kind of foreshadowing. But Krista's like getting some bagels, and she walks by some stockings where it's like Jay-Z and Beyonce, and it's like Jay Bay, and she gets the Jay-Z one. She goes to kind of check it out there. So Krista's kind of doing her own thing. And then we cut back to virtual realty, where Elliot and Darlene now have the like huge thumb print thing. It's like they can just put their thumb into it and use it. It's weird looking, but it's cool because they're basically just using the guy's fingerprint to get in there. So they get into the server room access. There's a really cool shot where the camera pans out and it's a side shot, and it's them kind of going through on the far end. It's Elliot and Darlene walking through. And they go to a couple different servers and they start hacking it there. It's really cool because Elliot goes in there and deletes Dolores Hayes as an employee there. He checks his phone. There's 6.5 minutes to go. The cameras are still off. The guy at the front desk, he goes and gets in the elevator, and he's just about to just like mind his own business. And he realizes that the like maintenance port in the elevator is cracked open. So when they closed it, obviously it didn't stick. So that was interesting because that was like Elliot and Darlene's first mistake. So he notices that. He scans his badge, and then he goes up to the 9th floor. And so Darlene and Elliot go to another server room, and they're hacking through. And then they hear the door open. And it's really, really good acting by both of them because, and the music is super intense. So the guy's up there, and he's standing there. He's looking around. He's looking like he knows something's going on there. And he sees that like the server room is locked, like the doorway that they went in there, but he logs into his app on his phone called like Secure Lock, and he basically can check like the record, and it says D-Lawyer fingerprint unlocked today. And he was like, bro, that's me. So he's like, there's no way that I did that. So it's really cool because again, none of this has no dialogue throughout all of this. So the guy at the front desk now, who went on break or whatever at 11, he's now back at the front desk, and he's watching Die Hard, and there's just another quick cut. But he does text him, and he says, someone accessed the server room using my credentials, call the cops. And so he knows what's up. And Darlene and Elliot are still hacking here. Elliot checks his phone. There's 2.5 minutes left. And yeah, they hear him walk by, and they like both have a second where they like look, and they're like, they know they can't make a sound. And it's like really, really great because the music is intense. And all you hear are the footsteps. And again, there's no dialogue. There hasn't been any dialogue for a while now. It's really, really well done. And so he's slowly walking up. And eventually he gets to the server. So there's like 2 rows of servers, basically, at least. And they're hiding right behind it. And then, of course, right before he's going to like look down where the one they're at, he stops, and then he goes to randomly check the other row. So I was like, all right, a little convenient. I was like, at least he's going to check another row. But I'm like, you think he would sweep the whole thing first before going to the next one? But so they get lucky there. But then like Darlene is just logging in now. So it's like, dude, they're not even close, really. Ellie checks his phone again. There's under a minute left, and he just shows her under a minute, and she looks at the camera, and she's just like, and they don't say anything, but she like gives him like, what do you want me to do, dude? I'm going as fast as I can. And Elliot's like staring at the camera there. And again, so now they're on the other side. They're still hacking. There's still time to go. And like there's almost no chance that Darlene's going to get everything hacked in under a minute, and especially for them to get out. So, and then that's not to mention the guy in the other server, all he has to do is like look over, and he's going to see them. So not only are they up against the clock, but this guy is on their trail, and all he has to do is look, and he's slowly going through. But when he's on the other end of the servers there where they first went, they left like a slot open or something. And so that's another mistake. So this is 2 mistakes now Elliot and Darlene have made. And so I'm like, oh man, like they're going so quick, and you think they got everything planned out, but it's just these little things that they pick up on where this guy is on their trail. And so the time is up, and like the cameras are going to come back on. Elliot looks up, and he's like, the lights are like, it's just like powered by like whatever the company is. And Elliot like thinks on his feet, opens his laptop, gets to their website, hacks it, and then he just shuts down all of the lights, like right as the cameras come up. The cameras actually do come up, and the guy at the front desk is like actually like calling the cops or whatever, and he's looking away from the screens, which is weird. You think he would just sit down and like look at the screens at the same time, but they get lucky there. And all the lights go out, and this looks so cool, dude, because it is pitch black. The guy whose fingerprint was used, he's got his flashlight on, and he knows now something is definitely up. But it's just like the blue and orange and green like flicker of the lights on all the servers. And then like Darlene is still hacking there, and then like the light in the far distance, but now it's like straight up like a thriller movie, dude. And he's like slowly going through, and now Darlene still needs to finish. So she's like quietly typing and slowly typing. And like, again, the music is so good in this whole thing. And so he's like going up to them. They get really close. She enters like server maintenance, creates a password. And this guy, man, he's so close to finding them. He's in the next row over, and he comes over, and they have to like hurry so quickly that they just leave the computer up. And so I'm like, oh, dude, that's mistake number 3 right there. And they just start sprinting out. So while he's checking the computer, they start sprinting, and like he hears the door open. And so he runs, and Elliot like zip ties the door, and he literally sees Elliot. And I'm like, oh, dude, now your cover's blown. Like now you're screwed. So Darlene and Elliot start running, but the cameras are up. So now I'm like, dude, what are you going to do now? And so they go to check the elevator, but the guy at the front desk has now gone up the elevator. And so now there's no one watching the cameras at the front desk. And I'm like, oh, dude, that's a fatal mistake. So they're going to use the elevator down, but they see it's just about to go to the 9th floor. So they run and they take the stairs. There's a great shot where that guy comes out. And so they're standing there looking at the elevator. The elevator opens, and we think obviously they're going to be right there. No, they took the stairs. The music is going. They're going down the stairs, literally like it's like an orange staircase. And they're running. They get down to the lobby, but now the cops pull up in front. So then they run over to like the basement again. And then Elliot's kind of looking out the front there. And guess what, dude? Elliot's looking out, and then there's like a shot where the guy whose fingerprint was used, Dollar, I think his last name is, Joseph Dollar or something. He like looks at Elliot, and then it's like a great shot. And Elliot's like, oh shit. And then he like holds the door closed as much as he can. But the guy keeps pulling on it. And then eventually Elliot knows like he just has to push forward. And so he like knocks the guy leaps over the security thing, and then he just starts sprinting out the front door. So then there's like this endless chase where the two cops are running after Elliot the whole time. And again, the music's going. But now I'm like, dude, Darlene's still in there. Like, she's screwed. And now that guy is going to find her. But I don't think he didn't see Darlene. So he doesn't know she's involved. He only saw through that little window, that little slot in the door, and he only saw Elliot. So as far as he knows, it's like a one-man thing. And when he let Dolores in earlier, he probably didn't connect the two. So she goes back up to like one of the floors there, and the security cameras are on, so she hides behind a pillar, and she's like, I'm screwed, dude. There's no way out of this. Until she sees that there are some workout clothes and there's a bunch of water bottles, and there turns out there's a gym on the first floor. And so she's going to get back to that. We do get a brief cut to like a running scene past the movie theater, and it's like a shot in an Alvin and the Chipmunks movie. So I'm sure they paid Sam some sort of money to be on the show there for some advertising. But yeah, Elliot's running through the streets there. The cops are running after him. There's a car swerving everywhere. So this was almost like a comical scene where Elliot's running and running. And I'm like, dude, you can't just run forever. But this scene goes on for a while. There's some great aerial shots where Elliot's running away from the camera, and then he's running towards the camera. And he's just running through like a highly populated area where I'm guessing they either just shot this like when people were just out, or they got a bunch of extras to just act like they're living normal lives there. So there's a huge chase. Elliot goes down some stairs. We cut back to Darlene. She does take off the wig and I think put it in her backpack, but she puts on like the fitness workout gear. So this was a little weird to me because like the workout clothes happened to fit Darlene, and like someone also happened to leave workout clothes, which was kind of weird. But I guess it makes sense if someone works there and they're like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym like 4 times a week or whatever. They're like, I'll just use these on Monday or whatever. I can see how they made that stretch. But yes, since she looks different than when she came in as Dolores, she like slowly walks by, but the cop and the front desk guy kind of look at her. And so she's just like basically like drinking the water bottle like she just got out of the gym. And so she's able to actually walk out the front door. We cut back to Elliot. The chase scene is still going, man. He goes to the skating rink. I think it's like near Rockefeller Plaza probably. And all these people are skating around, and this is great because Elliot like knocks over a lady, and he's like slowly going through the rink. He ends up like jumping through the other side. He goes over like towards the woods, and he falls down a hill. And we're like, oh, okay. And he thinks he got away. Nope, the cops are right on his tail around the other end there. He gets to a bus, and then like the cops are running. We think Elliot's good to go. We cut back to Darlene, who's like, kind of slowly walking still. She's like clearly nervous, but you can tell she's like doing a good job of walking it off. She gets to her car, and then she gets a text from Elliot where he sends the coordinates there. So he's like constantly updating her, like where he's going or where she needs to be, which is like the Upper West Side. So she starts driving. Elliot's on the bus. There's like a whole bunch of, they must be doing like a Christmas play or something, because there's like, I think like baby Jesus and all of that. And so eventually the cop car pulls up and gets in front of the bus. So the bus has to pull over. Elliot like forces his way through a door. And I don't think the doors are probably that easy to push through when the buses stop or locked, but he eventually just breaks the door, and then he keeps running, and the cops get on his tail again. And I'm like, dude, you got to call for backup or something. Like I don't know if these are the same cops, but like they are just out of breath and they keep running. At this point I was like, all right, this is going on a little too long, but it's pretty good. Elliot's running. He actually gets hit by like a van, and we think for a split second that Elliot's dead, but he's just on the ground there, and he comes back. Again, the guy kind of gets up and looks at him, doesn't say anything. And again, there's been no dialogue for, I think, the entire episode for a long time. I'll have to check, but Darlene's, we don't have to talk about it. I think that's the only line of the entire show, which is really cool if that's the case. So I'll double check that and edit in if that's the case. But Elliot's running, and he's like at a stalemate now where it's like the cops are coming on the left side. There's more cops on the right-hand side. So it's like the cops running, and then another cop car pulls up, and it's a big drop off. And Elliot's like, he knows he's got to jump back. And we're like, oh, is he just going to like jump to his death? Like, what's he doing here? And so the camera is positioned perfectly where like he jumps and he leaps, and you're like, oh, there's either water down there or like he made a crazy jump. Well, there's just a really big hill apparently, because he like kind of rolls down it, and then the camera is like up above. And then Darlene is actually parked right there. So he jumps down, gets into Darlene's car, and she runs away. There's actually a really sweet scene where they're like running away and they look at each other and they don't say anything. And Elliot's like huffing and puffing because he's been sprinting for like 25 minutes. And her arm is like on the like the drive, like the gear shift. And then Elliot actually puts his arm on top of her arm, and it's like, oh, we're good. Like they worked as a team to get that job done. So for the moment, they get away. We cut to Philip Price, who picked up the dry cleaner from Murnau's dry cleaners, or whatever. There's a little like letter or slip in the pocket there, and he basically gets an invitation, the Brentano, at 9 p.m., which is where the meeting is going to be. And so he texts Elliot and he says, I just received the location and the time of the meeting. Willick or not, it looks like we're on. And so he's like, boom, we got the Deus Ex meeting somehow within a day. And so that's all good. We cut back to Dom, who finally shows up at her mom's house there. She's like walking the dog. She notices that there's a dark army van on like Oxford Street or whatever. And I think that was relevant, but I don't remember that. She gets the license plate down basically, and she writes it down in like a notebook. Her dad is like passed out on the couch there, and she goes to see like her mom who's cooking, and there's no dialogue here once again, but her phone goes off, and she checks her phone and she gets a message from Janice. She says, new assignment, I need you to find a couple of troublemakers for me. This is a 911 scenario, so chop chop. And then she sends a picture, or looks like a stoplight or a traffic stop picture of Elliot and Darlene in the car. So obviously they did not get away. And then the episode finishes up here, guys, with Krista showing up to, we assume, her boyfriend's apartment. And she's got her bag groceries, and then she actually looks across the street, and it's the kid in the red poofy jacket that she bumped into at the grocery store earlier, which I did not realize upon first watching this episode. And she recognizes the kid, and so she kind of like, she's got her bag groceries and she fiddles with it, and she drops everything, and the ice cream rolls onto the ground. The kid picks it up. She's trying to like get her keys in there as soon as possible. But then we see Vera, and then Vera says, it's time we talk. And he smiles. And that is how the episode ends. So the White Rose for this one, I think I'm probably going out of order. I don't remember if I do score or White Rose first. It doesn't really matter. I think I probably switched it up between the series. But the White Rose for this episode, I think it has to be Carly as Darlene, because, there's very little dialogue in here. But just seeing her and Elliot kind of team up there, she does, obviously they work together as a team to 3D print and get the job done and all that. But like she thinks on her feet to kind of act as a fitness, like a gym person, and to get out, literally walk out the front door there. But she does the hacking, they stay quiet. And Elliot, again, it's a team effort. So I almost wanted to give another co-White Rose to Elliot and Darlene. But the fact that she goes undercover and she just carries it so well. She doesn't panic. She doesn't do anything like that. We know they've both been going through a tough time. It's cool that we kind of saw them like implode last episode, where they're both mad at each other, but then they both come at the end of the episode to realize that they need each other, and then they work together like full tandem, and this kind of gets them back into good graces. And so really, really cool to see them team up and get the job done. But I just think Carly does an excellent job. Like I said, she's looking really good. And she just, for an episode that has very, very little dialogue, there's a lot of personality that they express, and they just do everything so perfectly. I love how they have the gloves, but I love how they make mistakes too. And so that it kind of leads to them almost getting caught, and then ultimately getting caught, or at least Elliot getting caught. But then like the way that they like thought on their feet to kind of get out of it. And then they work together where Elliot sends her like the address. Awesome stuff. So Carly has got to get my White Rose for this episode. Okay, guys, for a score for this one, oh my God, what an episode, dude. At the very beginning when Dom picks up Elliot and she says, it's cool, we don't have to talk about it, I'm pretty sure there's no dialogue all the way through the entire episode until the very end scene where Vera says, it's time we talk. And the amount of actions and everything that happens, you don't need dialogue to know what's going on. You don't need dialogue to know that Darlene, once she got in there, said like, hey, I'm having trouble with my badge access. Can you look at it for me? And he said, okay. And so again, that's also, now that I'm thinking about it, that's why he whistled at her instead of saying, hey, you forgot your phone, because Sam intentionally made this episode so good that he didn't want to put any dialogue in there between the very beginning and the very end with Vera. And that is, I think, what pushes this episode like way beyond a lot of the other episodes there, where it is a masterpiece and it is masterclass storytelling. The fact that You think that's a little line with Dom, and these episodes are usually heavy with dialogue. And the fact that they don't speak, none of the characters really speak at all through the entire episode, outside of, I think, 2 lines in the whole episode, beginning and the end, is incredible. And you don't realize it because you're just like watching it and the music is going and it's intense. And you get the environmental storytelling where you're like, oh, Elliot sees this, so he's going to hack this now. Or, oh, this guy's coming up. And in his head, he's thinking, oh, this is suspicious and things like that. But then you look at the time and you're like, wow, I haven't heard anyone speak for 44 minutes. And it's insane. And yeah, for that, to pull that off in the way they did, and the fact that you don't need dialogue and you can still get all of the story is just incredible. The score was absolutely unreal in this one. This was like season 1 Mr. Robot. Like all of the sounds are hitting it. It's fast paced. It's like I had like my heart was in my throat because I was like, oh, dude, how are they going to get out of this one? And it's like twists and turns and all these things. So with all that being said, guys, and obviously there's a small cast of characters, but they're so important at this stage, including Vera's introduction, which we're going to get into, or sort of reintroduction, but this is where like the Vera things are coming up. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, look, we're 5 episodes into the final season, which I know is 13 episodes, so it's longer. But I'm like, man, it's been so good already, and we haven't even gotten to the Vera stuff, which this kind of sets up. And I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot that we haven't even gotten to like the most memorable part, I think, of season 4. So yeah, I didn't really realize how great this episode was the first time. With that being said, guys, this is a 9.8. This is an absolute gem. One of the best episodes of Mr. Robot. And like I said, because of what they did without dialogue, probably pushes it right towards the top, So I don't want to give it a perfect score because there are a couple nitpicks there, but it's pretty damn close, and it's so well done, given everything that happened. And I'm just blown away, and Sam did a great job. The only other nitpick I would say is that the chase scene with Elliot went on a little too long, where I was like, okay, like it was kind of comical because Elliot's just running across and you realize how ridiculous it is. But there's like a little, maybe like a couple, maybe 2 minutes that it went on too long, where I was like, all right, this could have been done with maybe one less scene of him just running with the drone shots there. So other than that though, guys, an amazing, incredible episode. I can't wait for next week. And yeah, I'm blown away by the show. And they, like I said, they just continue to take the bar and just raise it and raise it and raise it. And it's just, what a special show this is. And I'm so glad I'm rewatching it. Okay, guys, well, that is it for another episode of Hello Friends. This one's probably a little long in the tooth, similar to the chase scene, but I think it's worth it. I had a lot to say about this one. There's a lot that was going on, so I'm glad I was able to hopefully get everything important in there, kind of walk you guys through it. I had a blast watching this one. I was like, jaw was on the floor. I was like on the edge of my seat. I was so like nervous for Elliot and Darlene, even though I knew that they escaped at the end, but I kind of forgot that they ran into trouble and this guy came up and how do they get out of it, and they have to think on their feet. And yeah, just like I said, the acting without dialogue was phenomenal. The score was great. The shots were really beautiful too. I loved any of the side shots there. And then we had some aerial shots, and yeah, just awesome. Mr. Robot is always so good. So yeah, that's another episode, guys. Thank you for checking out Project Potter. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell notification. We're getting down there. And until next time, guys, goodbye, friend.